Hello. Now I will tell you a story about betrayal in a place called Blood Runs Thicker. Ethan Holloway had always been a man of loyalty. At 38, he had built a good life. Nothing fancy, but stable. He had a decent job, a home, and most importantly, a wife he adored, Rachel. She was his rock, the love of his life. They had been together for 12 years. Then there was Daniel, his younger brother. Charming, reckless, the kind of man who never settled down. Ethan had always looked out for him, helped him through hard times, even let him crash at their house when he needed a place to stay. Looking back, that had been his first mistake. Rachel had been distant lately, cold, distracted. At first, Ethan thought it was stress, maybe boredom, but something felt off. Late night girls' nights that didn't make sense. The way she suddenly cared about how she looked when Daniel was around. The way they exchanged glances when they thought Ethan wasn't looking. One night, Ethan came home earlier than expected. The house was dark, except for the faint glow from the bedroom. He walked down the hall, his stomach twisting. The door was slightly open, and there they were. Rachel, his wife, Daniel, his own brother, tangled together in the bed Ethan had shared with her for over a decade. Something inside him died at that moment. Ethan didn't burst in. He didn't scream. He stood there, silent, unseen, watching as his own flesh and blood betrayed him. Then he backed away, his mind already calculating. The next morning, Rachel acted normal. She kissed him goodbye like nothing had happened, like she wasn't sleeping with his brother behind his back. Daniel showed up later that day, laughing, cracking jokes, drinking Ethan's beer. Ethan played along, pretended everything was fine, and then he began to plan. A week later, Ethan suggested a weekend getaway, just the three of them. A cabin out in the woods, far from anyone. Rachel hesitated, but Daniel, the arrogant fool, grinned. Yeah, man, that sounds great. It was too easy. The drive was quiet. Ethan barely spoke. Rachel sat in the passenger seat, Daniel in the back, oblivious to the tension thick in the air. When they arrived, the cabin was already stocked. Food, drinks, and something extra Ethan had prepared. That night, they drank by the fire. Ethan made sure Rachel and Daniel had plenty. He barely touched his. When they were both sluggish and off guard, he struck. First, Rachel. A swift, vicious blow to the head with a fire poker. She slumped over, barely conscious, eyes wide with shock. Daniel lunged at him, but Ethan was ready. A hunting knife straight to the gut. His brother gasped, collapsing to his knees, hands slick with blood. Ethan stood over them, his heart pounding, watching them struggle. Rachel tried to speak, her voice slurred. Ethan, please. Daniel choked, wheezing. Be brother. Ethan knelt beside him. Brother? He spat the word. You were my brother. Then, with cold precision, he slid the knife across Daniel's throat. Rachel sobbed, crawling toward the door. But Ethan took his time. He wanted her to feel it, to understand the weight of what she had done. Her betrayal, his justice. By the time the night was over, the cabin was silent. Ethan worked quickly. The bodies disappeared into the woods, buried deep where no one would find them. The cabin was cleaned, burned, erased. And Ethan? He drove back home a new man. When people asked about Rachel and Daniel, he told them the truth. They ran off together. No one questioned it. And Ethan? He moved on, knowing that the two people who had betrayed him were exactly where they deserved to be. Buried, forgotten, gone. Thanks for listening. Like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to hear many more interesting stories.